When you were at NYU and
Yes.
you decided you wanted a career in show business,
Yes.
and you figured out you wanted to be a stand-up comic,
Yeah.
you've described it as being like you were so nervous.
Yes,
And
yes.
you hated it, really.
you
hated stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
You had to do it because you saw it as a way to sort of make your mark.
I was addicted to it.
Yeah.
I would book myself as much as possible, but
Right.
it was like I was never sure if I was going to. I ate it a lot. I didn't do well a lot of times, so and I would get angry up there, and I would make the room uncomfortable and stuff. And so I was
Was it that you didn't have material, or that your material just was too weird?
It
or
was
what?
I don't think I was. I'm not as sharp as some of the other guys that we grew up with. Like, and I wasn't as prepared when things went off.
In other words, you didn't memorize your stuff?
I
You didn't
tried to,
hone
but
it?
I
Yeah.
would choke. I would choke. I would choke memorizing my jokes, and I would panic, and I would see stars and stuff, and I was gulping. Like when I used to get yelled at in school a lot, I used to get that gulp, like I was borderline gonna cry.
It
I
seems
used to
like
do that.
it seems like some guys, like when you were doing stand-up, who was around? Like Chris Rock had started.
It was
You, Colin Quinn.
David Spade, maybe.
Yeah.
I was in New York first with I used to do Pips a lot. I used to do Pips with Otto and George and
Oh, wow.
Otto and George.
Otto
right,
and
yeah.
George. He was great to me. Yeah,
he was the ventriloquist with the
Yes.
dirty puppet.
Exactly.
Yeah. That was a good act.
Yeah, it was a great act.
Great act.
And I was 17. I was 17 at NYU, and I used to. The reason I would get booked a lot is I had a car. I would be
You
able
could
to
drive
drive
everyone.
those guys, Bob Woods and all those guys.
All those
Right.
guys you were
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
And some of those guys, it seemed like, were naturals, right? They could just go
They
up.
were just a little more ballsy. I had some balls. I was kind of dopey, and I didn't realize I was on a mission a little bit when I was like I gotta become a
star.
bigger. I want to be this and that, and I gotta get on Saturday Night Live and all that.
Was
stuff.
that part of it? Because you said when you were little, you really were into Mel Brooks movies
Sure.
and stuff like that. So you probably saw yourself more as an actor, maybe, and a guy who would do
think so.
sketches.
No,
on-
Eddie Murphy. I kind of wanted to do the
Eddie Murphy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who doesn't?
And Rodney. I loved Rodney and Eddie Murphy, and that's who I would tell people I'm going to be. When I left my hometown, I was like, hey, I'm going to be the next Eddie.
Yeah, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm going to either be Eddie Murphy or Rodney Dangerfield. Yeah. And you sound like an asshole when you say that to people.
yeah.
They don't believe. Who says these kinds of things?
I know. I hate a lot of the things I said growing up.
I found it fascinating that when you got into NYU, one of the ways you supported yourself, you would go down
Yeah.
to the subway.
Yeah.
And you would actually panhandle. You would play your
Sure.
guitar.
Yes.
You would play Beatles cover songs. Am I correct?
Yes, you're good.
And you would play these songs, and people gave you money.
I did fine. I would get $20 about an hour and a half.
What did you do to get on Saturday Night Live? Like, what was your
Stand up.
You did stand up.
Dennis Miller saw me at the Improv, and he
So you
told
must have been good.
I had some good jokes. No, I
Right.
wasn't. No, I was all. I could. I mean, I did all right.
Were
I
you
did.
shocked when Miller said, "I know this guy Adam Sandler. He's
Yeah.
really funny," and he says to Lauren, "Why don't you come audition?" And all that. I mean, that's very generous
That
of a guy.
was. I love him, man. It was. They were looking for new guys, and actually the night I got on, Rock was on me and him auditioned in Chicago that night.
It was you and Chris Rock.
Right.
And Lauren shows up.
Lauren loved Rock, and immediately put him in the cast. And I had some interesting jokes that he liked, and he thought maybe I could write for the show.
And you were pissed, right? Because you didn't want to be a writer. You wanted to be a performer.
I didn't know anything about writing, and I didn't know. It was just yet another like, no, this guy doesn't get it. I'm the next Eddie, man.
Yeah, right. But wisely, Miller, I think, said to you, take the writing job. You'll get your foot in the door.
Yes, yeah.
Were you going to actually consider turning down?
Yes. For a minute, I was young, and I just did exactly what my father told me to do or what my friends were saying. And some of them were like, what, a writer? No, don't do that. I was like, okay, I can't do it then.
Rock gets to be on camera. You're going to be a writer.
Right. It was slight heartache. I was flying back, and I called on the plane. Back then, it was a big deal to blow $15 on the to use the phone on the airplane, and I couldn't believe I was actually doing it. And I knew my father possibly could beat the shit out of me for that move, but I called my agent.
Yeah.
And I said, "Had they liked me? They liked you. Good news, they liked you. They thought some of your jokes were good. They actually want you to be a writer." And and I remember flying back, just shook up like, "Oh, that's it."
They don't
right.
get it.
Yeah, a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, but it was smart that you went because you got your
Yeah.
foot in the door.
Yes.